Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Beacon World League Season 2. We are ready with our extra seeding session, as some players could not make it for this Saturday, and we are going out of our way to accommodate them. Make sure that as many people as want to play in these open qualifiers can. To bring you the action today, I'm Nualaik. Joining me is Babs and Tween. I'm going to start with Tween because he's by far the most important person here. Tween, how are you feeling about this?
I'm very honored and pleased to be here, really, because I'm hoping to going forward to be on the track more than in the casting booth. So
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing you out there. I think looking forward to making you spill all of your secrets and all of your lines as we watch qualifying here. Going to be great. Joining us as well, a man who has no secrets about driving that he could possibly share. He simply does not have the skill. Babs, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm.
That was very harsh. I'm sorry.
I'm similarly to Tween. I'm looking forward to getting out of the casting booth, just because it doesn't seem to be a very safe space for us casters. But yeah, no, I'm excited to get into today. Obviously, going to be a bit more casual. Probably not going to see all the big names take part today. Probably some people saving themselves for Saturday. But
so, that's exciting, Babs. And I'm sorry because I just looked at the server as you were saying that. And it's time to just dive in and talk about players immediately. Because currently someone has all 3 world records on the maps. Tween, that player is Stoofts. And Stoofts is on the server right now. So we're going to get to see, I think, the #1 favorite, at least coming into seeding, play this evening. I mean, Tween, how are you feeling about some of the names signed up for Open Qualifier here?
I'm sorry. I missed that. It was directed at me. I'm very excited to see Stoofs play because I mean, I know that he's been like streaming and grinding so much lately, and I feel like he just like he has the momentum to use that and just go for it with the very first opportunity that he has.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we are about ready to jump on in. Players seem to have started their rounds. Babs, I'm going to let you take us a little bit more through the format. But at a basic level, all of these players have done time attack already. That will account for 30% of their score. 70% then of their overall qualifying will be the times that they drive tonight. And they are going to do 8 rounds on each of the 3 qualifying maps. Babs, tell us about the complicated bits.
Make it make sense. Well, a lot of people will be familiar with some other Trackmania competitions where seeding is simply done in rounds. So people are going to take into account, the times that you drive on rounds on the seeding maps. The way we're doing it is that basically we're taking those rounds and they're going to be weighted from best to worst. So your best times are going to count for more, your worst times are going to count for less. And we also add into that your time attack, so online PB on each map, which then results in time attack, accounting for 30%, like you said, and the rounds aspect accounting for 70% of your seeding. It's all a little bit complicated. It all makes sense. I think once you actually play it out, it makes more sense than putting it on a graphic or talking over a graphic. So yeah, I think everyone will understand sort of what's going on as we jump into the server.
Yeah, absolutely. Tween, you went through this seeding format last season, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Or how do you feel about the seeding format? I mean, because it is relatively unique, I think, compared to a lot of other tournaments.
I have to say I really like it. I mean, it didn't work out quite in my favor last time, but yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't seem very apparent, but like the mistakes you might make are still very very costly. And yeah, they're obviously not as costly as they would be if like each round was weighted the same way, but like you really have to keep that in check. And yeah, I think there's like especially one map which is going to be very mistake prone, and yeah, a lot is going to be going down there with that.
If I had to question, is it Maharaga?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I am looking forward to watching that map once we get into rounds, once we get to Maharaga as well. It's going to be a ton of fun, but for now I do want to just take us a little bit through the players. There are a lot of players who have already signed up and are looking to complete seeding either now or on Saturday. There will, of course, be the main seeding on Saturday, but we do have a decent amount of players here. As already mentioned, Stoofts is currently sitting in server. In terms of other players who are looking to break into that top 22 and therefore qualify to one of the top 2 divisions here in Beacon. Stoofts is here. He might be one of the few players who I think is kind of here tonight and looking to actually make that top 22. But I mean, there's a player like Ploms, there's Inko, who currently after Time Attack are sitting 23rd and 24th. So potentially some players looking to improve their performance from Time Attack a little bit, with a little bit more pressure on, with 8 rounds per map to do it on. Will they be able to pull it off? Babs, anyone in particular that you're kind of looking at here on the server that you think might be exciting, might have a good chance?
I think the first name you said was Ploms. I played
Yeah.
the Mud Masters that was hosted by Evo with Ploms. Absolutely enjoyed it so much, and found out that he is an incredible player, really strong player. Not only in Time Attack but also in rounds. And he's a good friend of Novu, who's currently 8th on the Time Attack leaderboard. So maybe looking up to Novu and maybe thinking that he'd like to get into the same division as him and play some competitive matches against him. So I'm definitely rooting for Ploms. He's a great guy. I'd love to have the chance to cast some of his games and maybe interview him this season.
Should be fun. I mean, that's very nice about Beacon, is we do get to interact with the players a little bit more, as evidenced by the fact that we are still sitting here beside Tween. And Tween, I am going to ask you then as well. 6 of these players across today and Saturday will be joining you in Division 1 of the Beacon World League. Are there any names that you're 100% expecting to be there? Anyone that you'd rather maybe miss the cut, as you did in Season 1, and drops into Division 2 so you don't have to face them this season?
Yeah, I mean, everybody who makes it is going to have to put up like a heroic task to do that. So yeah, I mean, anyone who makes it is going to be a big opponent. But I think the big guys, I believe they're playing Saturday, are going to have like they're going to put so much effort into it, I think, and so much like I guess energy into it. So yeah, I'll be rooting for them actually. I'll be honest. And yeah, I've seen Josh play quite a lot. Like he was warming up on Mahoraga and he was looking very solid. So yeah, I have high expectations of his performance today. If he plays that is.
Yeah. Was that Dark you said in the middle there? Sorry, just. Yes, okay. Just double checking. There's a lot of names and a lot of players on the server here as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they do. This will be a first time set by the player Stoofts with a 110.896 in our first round on Xenogen. And he's setting the pace a little bit here, Babs.
Yeah, I mean, a pace that's 2 seconds ahead of anyone else. So it's definitely a pace. Really strong time, actually, just to start off. Yep. I think on the current version of the map, I think the world record is at 0.3 at the moment. So setting something, within half second of that in round 1, yeah, he's ready for this.
Yeah, and those big players, as you mentioned, Tween, both of them will be joining us on Saturday. We imagine at this point, as, they've been practicing the maps and they're not here, so hopefully they'll be there on Saturday. I think Stoofts playing today is definitely going to set a target for them, and I don't know, potentially a minor disadvantage for Stoofts here in the fact that they're going second and will know what they have to try and hit. It's going to be definitely... Yeah. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit of a gamble to play today, because you have you don't really know like if you should push more than what you're already doing. So yeah, I mean, I suppose that people have to be pretty confident to enter today.
Yeah, or busy on Saturday, it does have to be said. This is at least a chance for players who might not otherwise be able to make it for this Saturday seeding to get their times in early. We're in another round on Xenogen, where Stoofts is, again, looking about 2 seconds ahead of anyone else. At the moment, it is technically only a second, but we'll see how that lasts up to the finish line as we come through. Stoofts is consistent. That is another just below 111, about 6/10 off world record twice now. And then Sebi and Ilinko coming in just behind. Stoofts is looking quick. With again the caveat that we're not sure how this is going to stack up, because it is relevant and it will be compared against the times of the other drivers on Saturday. Whether they're driving today or whether they're driving on Saturday, they are still competing against each other in this seeding directly, Babs.
Yeah, of course. And I think a lot of people, not only Tween, who's with us today, are going to be watching the rounds today. I know Wizzy was streaming earlier and he was telling me that, yeah, he's going to be interested to see what the times are of the best players. even though the sample size is relatively small, you know, Stuffs is going to be a good sort of barometer for those players who are vying to get a Div 1 spot. And yeah, we're on the first map, which is Xenogen, and this one is very sort of tech and grass and dirt based, which is something that probably favors Stuffs quite well, and I know that he does love this map as well. I was wondering what Tween was thinking about these maps, and specifically this one, because in my head, this map kind of would suit you pretty well. Is that true or not?
Yeah, I mean, I believe this map is kind of like hitting just like the just right amount of difficulty, you know, and yeah, I mean, especially in the second half, you can still push so much and gain so much time. So yeah, it's not just about surviving the second half. It's like you can really make up for so much in it. So yeah, I mean, I kind of like those maps where you can maybe pace yourself and maybe even not have to push so hard like right from the get-go. And yeah, but it seems that Stooft is like ignoring like what I'm saying and he's just going for it. So yeah, I mean, consistent 110 pace here is pretty formidable, and yeah, I mean, like everyone who is going to be playing on Saturday is going to look up to that for sure.
Yeah, I do have to note that Stooft technically doesn't have the world record on this map at the moment, and he's going to have to pick up the pace a little bit if he wants to claim that back by the end of seeding. Now, maybe not the time to try and push for that. Consistency is rewarded because all 8 of your times do get counted, with your best time counting the most over the course of the seeding session and so on down to 8th place. So the consistency is good, but going fast is also good. And Nico does currently hold the world record for this. Now, I don't think Nico is, well, he's not going to be playing seeding, given that he's already qualified for the tournament. But, you know, it'd be nice to see Stooft pushing world record while we practice seeding here, Babs.
Yeah, I have to say it's unlikely. I think.
But he could do it. Think about it. It'd be cool.
He could, but I mean, does he have his own interests in heart, or does he want to impress New Alaic? I don't know. It's a fine balance to gauge. But yeah, this format is it's the sort of one where you have to give yourself a limit of mistakes that you can make, a limit of rounds that you can fail.
That's what just happened.
Yeah, that's a failed round for Stuffed, for sure. Was there a crash in there somewhere for him?
Yeah, he crashed the finish there, it looked like. There is a lot of people crashing, exactly. We're saying a failed round for Stooft. I mean, he's a second and a half behind where everyone else has been, but he has been about 2 seconds ahead of everyone else. So, you know, I don't think it's that bad. He was really pushing for a good time there. I mean, Epos in chat should know, but he's saying he reckons Stooft was on a 0.4, 0.5 on that run before he crashed the end. So he's definitely looking for pace here.
Yeah, for sure. And you were mentioning some of those, mistake rounds.
Oh, sorry, Stooft has just crashed again.
Yeah, it's not a major crash, so he can definitely make up some time. But you know, that's at least close to a second loss than what his usual pace would be. And he's gonna have to try and pick it back up. But yeah, your slowest round on the maps actually doesn't count. It's weighted to 0%. So you can sort of give yourself one major crash round. You know, if that happens. Having played this format before, I tend to just sort of kind of reset. If I have a major crash, I just kind of stop for a little bit. I'm like, okay, get back in the zone, let's go again. And Stuffs is getting back into the zone, you know, that zone being first place, basically.
Yeah. Tween, I know I promised I wouldn't make you reveal lines, but I am going to ask you as we come up into this section of the track with the kind of jump into the penalty grass on the side where you're kind of forced to get a little bit of airtime. A lot of people in chat saying that it is almost functionally an identity, given how much time that you can gain or lose there. In your experience, what is kind of the range? How much time do you think you can gain on that jump with a perfect line?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen Nyko's run, and I've heard some players mention that. I mean, he just gained so much there, and I believe he's like maybe 0.3 or 0.4 ahead of like the other guys that are also like having a decent part, but like they just can't match Nyko's. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be extremely decisive, and yeah, I mean. It's also that the first half of the map is kind of techy and very you know, like it's just very kind of tight in a way that like you don't gain or lose that much time. So yeah, it is kind of an identity. It's the most identity that like one of the 3 maps has. So if
Yeah,
that makes
no,
sense.
some people would say that Mahoraga is just largely identities. It's a very transitional map, and I think plenty of places to fail. But I think identity in this sense meaning somewhere where you can not only lose time but also potentially gain a lot of time, which is not always the case. I think Mahoraga has a lot of sections where it's very easy to lose time, but maybe a little bit harder to gain time. This round is not going well for anyone, by the way, except Stoofts, who is several seconds ahead of literally anyone else out on track at the moment. And Stoofts is just kind of cruising to the finish. We'll see what the final time is for Stoofts, who got a 110.6. He's driving very quickly, and everyone else finishes about 2 seconds down from him, Babs.
Yeah, it's extremely impressive to have this sort of consistency and pace already. You were mentioning how the world record at the moment has kind of a poor start and gains a lot in those important sections. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's a great thing. The fact that we're before the actual league phase and the map is quite far off being optimized, being maxed, and the players still have probably a lot of time to push for maybe a 1.0, maybe even a sub. Looking at world record and considering the map is going to be played through the league phase and the playoff phase. I'd be expecting to see that happen, and I'd be expecting some players to kind of use this map as the ace in their pack.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always see Stoofts make another slight mistake. I mean, one more thing that is like very specific to the format is that when you make one mistake, like next mistake costs you more, like you have to I mean, you can't really let yourself lose when you make a mistake, because every single mistake just keeps piling up. So, and we see Stoofts like falling behind right now, and I believe that this is going to be maybe like a high 111 or a 112. Like those mistakes are actually costing him quite a lot.
Yeah, he is quick, at least through that section. He's going to end up with a low 112. But as you were saying there, Tween, I mean, as much as we're kind of very impressed with the peak times that Stoofts was setting there, I believe his fastest was that 110.6, got close to a 110.4 or 5. He did have 3 rounds, at least, where he was kind of off the pace, where there was a mistake that cost him over a second over the course of the round. And with that in mind, and with 1 round left to go here, at least on Xenogen, I think he's leaving himself a little bit vulnerable. Maybe not kind of dropping out of the top 6 and qualifying for Div 1, but at the very least of maybe not getting his seeding as high as I think he'd have hoped after Time Attack.
That's for sure. I mean, on Xenogen, I mean, I believe that people are going to be very like careful now, seeing like if they're going up against Stoofts, and they'll just try to be consistent with the forward times that he showed. And yeah, I mean, definitely 110 is going to be goal pace, or well, sub 111 is going to be the goal pace of the guys that will be trying on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a second and just read out, first of all, the message that Intax put on his map on Trackmania Exchange, which I think is lovely. Hello, Trackmania Exchange. This is my first ever map built for a high-level comp, and I would say it's a pretty unique one at that, smiley face. Thank you to the Beacon staff for letting me go a bit wild on this and for all the feedback along the way. Thus, this is my contribution to Beacon World League Season 2. Good luck and enjoy, Intax. And now Intax has just arrived into Twitch chat and said, bro, looking at this, I'm starting to think about what I built. Hey, I'm entertained, and I'm looking forward to getting it. Intax, of course, did map Mahoraga, which is already starting to get a little bit infamous. That is our final round on Xenogen, so we will be moving on to our next map. Is it going to be the funny yellow map, or are we moving to Heartleap and the red map? Babs, we'll figure out pretty soon. Overall, how do you feel the field did there? I will say, I think a little bit more crash prone than I was expecting Xenogen to be.
Yeah, for sure. Especially considering for specifically Stoofts, I think it's probably one of his best maps out of the 3, if not his best. I know he loves it, quite a bit. So I don't think he'd be satisfied with his performance there. I think he probably would have wanted to have that consistent 0.6, 0.7 sort of range of pace across most of his rounds. But there was, 3 or 4 small to big mistakes through that. And it was interesting, actually, in that last round, watching it from Sebi's point of view, where he lost about a second to Stuffed, not because he crashed or clipped, but he was doing a good round, but it wasn't maxed and being pushed to the same level as the Wild player was. So just sort of the difference in level is interesting to see between a potential Div 1 qualifier and maybe somebody who's going to try and scrape Div 2.
Yeah. Good news, everyone who's waiting in chat. We are, in fact, heading to the funny yellow map. The wait is over. We will get to see Mahoraga second on the evening and then round things off with Heartleap. Before we get in there, I am going to remind everyone that we are partnered with eCircuit Mania for the Beacon World League. There are stats available live over there. Now, at the moment, they are a little bit broken. The players who are playing in this seeding, their points are being added live to it. So if you head over, you will see Stoofts in free fall down the leaderboard along with everyone else who's playing. But that does mean that it is going to be interesting following along there on Saturday, because if a player has already completed their seeding on Thursday, then you're just kind of watching to see if people do fall below them. If at any point you fall below someone who has already completed seeding while your seeding is still live, there is no climbing back above them. So I'm looking forward to watching that and keeping an eye on how things go on Saturday. That'll add a little bit of tension to proceedings. But for the moment, Tween, I'm going to ask you, as we are on board with Linko, to tell us a little bit more about Mahoraga. It is a very transitional map, and there are a lot of failure points, it feels like.
That's definitely true, and it's also like one of the most vertical maps I've ever seen, like in a competition. Like there's so many jumps that where you go just drop so much, and you have to aim precisely, and like there's a lot of time to be gained in the landings. And yeah, I mean, also I think another point to make about the map is that it's very in contrast with the previous map. Like I think mostly you gain time and lose time in the first half of the track, right? And for the second half, it's more of a just survive type of deal, you know. And yeah, there's so many precise jumps there, and it's going to be very difficult to play in a format such as this, as we see, well, not many finishers to this first round.
That is 5 finishers. It's interesting. Now, again, while all of these are excellent, there's a lot of great players on the server. These are not players necessarily who were all sitting inside the top 22 as we ended the time attack phase. Still, it is scary to see some struggles here on Mahoraga as the players too try to get through. We jump on board with Stoofts just in time to see cars falling to the wayside, and Shoffy out to a good round start here. Stuff's crashing, kind of starting to get the feeling that just surviving and getting 8 finishes on Mahoraga might be the goal for a lot of drivers in seeding.
Yeah, I'd like to apologize, but because I'm kind of loving this, seeing the expression on Tween's face as we're watching this is very entertaining. I think this is kind of the distant poles that we have in Beacon. It's you might be good at tech, you might be fast on a sort of techie map, but hey, there's this really transitional RPG style map that you also need to play. So if you come up against somebody who's good at that, then you still need to be able to play it. So this is what is going to make the pick and ban really interesting during the league phase. You might have some players who are specialists at Mahoraga. It's their key to a victory in a match, and people are going to have to deal with that. People are going to have to find ways of managing that, maybe getting better themselves on the map, or just trying to avoid it at all costs. And I think for Stuffs, he said this might be his permaban. It's an interesting call before the next 2 maps have been released, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, EPOS also sitting in Twitch chat there calling it a permaban, which, I mean, there's the worry there, right? If you are maybe a Mahoraga specialist, but you're a little bit further down the seeding order, there's a couple of players who are maybe looking to get high seeds or come into the tournament and be the high seed, get those bans, who are saying like, nope, I simply refuse. Thank you. We will not go near this map.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be entertaining.
That's quite possible.
Yeah. How are you feeling about this map, Tween? You've been very quiet on your own personal feelings on the map so far, I feel like.
I mean, honestly, like once I saw the map for the first time, it actually was like a bit of fresh air, right? I mean, that's what like really spurred me to give praise to the map pack, really, because it's
What happened the second
very
time,
fresh.
Twee?
Sorry? The second time, yeah, I mean, I got a little stuck at the very last jump. I mean, it took me like 3 minutes to finish, but yeah, in the end, I think
Sorry,
I think I enjoyed the map.
worldy of a time from Stuffs.
I'm feeling positive about the map.
Yeah,
That's a great time.
that time
like anything
by
below
Stuffed.
109.
Exactly. That is currently the seventh fastest time that anyone has driven. That is better than Massa's online PB. Yeah, that was quick. That was very, very quick from Stuffed.
This is what I wanted to point out, though, because I think Tween might have been doing it before the stream, but I was watching Josh doing some rounds in Maharaga. He was setting back-to-back 0.6s. And like that is scary. Like if you come up against Josh and he's on that sort of pace, and Stuffed is managing with difficulty a 0.8, it's going to be an interesting matchup between some of those players.
Yeah, and here was me reliably informed that Josh was only a full speed player, and you're telling me he's good at Maharaga as well. That doesn't seem fair, Babs.
I mean,
Unfortunately,
it's quite a bit of a full speed map, right?
It's a full speed map disguised as a mini RPG map. Is that what I'm hearing?
that was not in the brief.
God, that was at the last season of World Tour with the last year with the kind of maps all being a mix between two styles. I can't believe they didn't try and mix mini RPG with full speed. That would have I would have loved to see what someone tried to cook with that.
Don't give us ideas. because we will act upon them.
Yeah, look, that's a decent time there from Dark. Stooft does get at least a finish, and honestly, that is seeming like a good place to be on Maharaga at the moment. 4 players, 5, 6 players across the line, and we still have a few seconds left. As always, I'm a little bit biased towards any map that does remind me of mini RPG. I think especially in competition, as you were saying, on this map between... In the first half, there's a lot of room to kind of risk and maybe lose or gain time, and then the back half is about survival. But when players get desperate, they start thinking about a little bit more than survival, even when they should just be trying to survive the jumps. And the player who can start to push a little bit harder then in the back half of the map, and you start gaining on the guy who's just thinking about survival and he's pulled out a 3/10 lead in the first half of the map, I mean, those are going to be very exciting rounds.
That's for sure. I mean, it's kind of what we can maybe see with Stoofs now. I mean, that's maybe something to ask him later, but I think he's right now kind of struggling compared to how he was doing on Xenogen. And I have like this suspicion that maybe he's just like pushing too much because he feels like he doesn't have a reference to like how the others are doing on Saturday. And that might be causing him to make more mistakes than he would like to make, that's for sure, as he's currently climbing up and like trying to catch up with the rest of the field.
Yeah, of course, Deuce does has the advantages. The speed there, my God, he's going to gain an awful lot. Hang on, let's wait and see what the final time was. And remember that he was, what, 5/10, 6/10s down from Shoffy at the start of this round. And Shoffy crashes as well. And Stoofs gets the near 1:10 flat. He's about a second and a half off his own world record there, but gained 4, 5, 6/10s back on the rest of the field through that one turnaround.
Yeah, that turnaround and some of these tricks might seem, when you watch like a single run, it might seem like it's just sort of visually pleasant, but not actually that impactful in a round. But I can assure you, and I know that the players will agree with this, is that there's a lot of time to be gained in these sections. Different lines are going to gain you more speed, and some maybe going to be a bit safer. That'll get you less speed. And we saw exactly that from Stuffs. He got a really early landing on that downhill and just snowballed up until the dirt uphill. And gained like 3 spots and, like you were saying, about half a second from that.
Yeah, super fun to see here as Stufts has managed to survive the start a little bit better this time around. So could be looking to set another decent time. And honestly, walking away from Maharaga with 2 or 3 good times out of 8 rounds might be enough to score well on the map at this point, given how things have looked for everyone else. This is impressive from Stufts in this round so far. Heading into the turnaround, can he gain the speed again? He looks like he might be zooming a little bit further off into the distance. This is looking to be a very solid time. Shoffy and Ploms chasing behind. That's going to be Ploms into a wall. Shoffy failed to finish in the last round, so watch as how safe he goes this time. Full middles it. Stufts gets a 108.782 as well. That's a fast round.
And when we were building this map behind the scenes, I was thinking of specific players. Obviously, I did not build the map, but I was thinking of specific players who this map could suit. And I know some players, maybe like Elcon and some of the pre-qualified players who might suit this sort of style quite well. And I'm going to be really interested to see how they fare on it once we're past the seeding stage and they have to reveal what their pace and consistency is on the maps as well.
It's going to be the deep dip diff, I guess.
Yeah, the players who've been practicing jumping for many hours. I don't know, maybe the muscle memory is too locked in at that point. You can't play any map except deep dip anymore.
There are safe routes, obviously, as Ploms is showing us here, and it might seem like he lost quite a bit of time there, but compared to if he tried to do the risky line and then actually had to respawn and loses a full like 7 or 8 seconds, taking the safe line is going to lose him 1 or 2. So it was a good decision, and in a round that could be the difference between winning or losing a round.
Yep. Keeping an eye then on some of the players in the middle. Tseko and Nats looking for a decent time. Currently leading the round. Linko heading towards the finish. Just kept the car out of the wall and on pace for a solid finish. Looking to be maybe a 1:10 here. It is going to be a 1:10, just about flat. He nearly made me a liar. Tween, I always appreciate it when players don't make liars out of me as soon as I talk. So just remember that for when you're playing your matches. Looking to wrap our rounds up then here on Maharaga. 1 round left to go. Epos has been keeping track of Stufts' start crashes on the map here. It is currently at 6 out of 7, 6 out of 8. Can't be 6 out of 8. One. This is our 8th round. There's another one. So I think he might be on 6 out of 8 or 7 out of 8. Well, he's changed it now. He's gone down from 6 to 5, and somehow the 8 has stayed the same. I'm not convinced that Epos can do maths, guys.
Well, that's a question for another time. We'll ask him during the league phase when we get him on for an interview. But in the meantime, Stufts has clawed his way back into first. He had an extremely nice transition. That's a very low jump to gain a lot of speed into the sausage drift. This one is very tight, deceivingly tight, and this uphill is as well. You don't want to get any airtime. Linko did get a little bit. It's the difference of a few tenths, but it can make the difference in a round. For the moment, Stufts though is on a pretty good time. He might be around a 1:10 flat probably again, considering that first half mistake.
Yeah, well, keep an eye out. What can he get here? As you said, with this map, it's going to be so interesting seeing how much players can minimize airtime in those close rounds as well. Get your wheels down, the acceleration pumping in close rounds. Stufts 109. 109.2. Solid time considering the mistake at the starting. Impressive from Shoffy as well, who I think has had a very good map overall. We saw a couple of finish incidents, but Shoffy was up there to have those incidents. And Tween, sometimes that's all that matters, that you're putting yourself into a position to have an embarrassing moment.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think we can also praise Linko for I believe he was like one of the most consistent of the field on this map, and we've seen him win around, and we've seen him now basically do the same time again. So it just feels like he really made a solid performance there.
I'm just going to take a moment, Babs, and put into perspective how well Stufts was doing before the seeding round, but when we just had the time attack before we got into today's seeding, and even across those first 2 maps, Stufts obviously started in first place, and even having played 2/3 of seeding now, having added 2/3 of the points that he is likely to gain from the seeding today, he has not dropped out of the top 22 yet.
That's that's kind of insane. Like you've all seen the difficulty of these maps and how hard it is going to be to drive these maps in rounds. Like it just goes to show how impressive his TA performance already is.
Looking very, very impressive. Tween, what are you thinking of the level so far? Are you feeling confident in the amount of practice you've done on these maps coming into week 1 already?
I mean, I still believe that we are going to see like the biggest like racing frenzy on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I believe that like Stooft is really like making this try to be in the top 6, and yeah, I think that the other guys will try to maybe replicate what he's doing today, and yeah, I mean, like there's still so much time to practice left, and also for me, but also for other players, for Stooft as well. So, I mean, it's really hard to call right now, like what the level is going to be like.
I'm going to make a bold call and claim that I think the level is going to be high in Division 1 of Beacon this season. Overall, it's probably going to be quite good. But who actually sets that level and who is going to be there is going to be interesting. Obviously, Stooft is setting the pace, setting the bar for the players who will complete their seeding on Saturday. They know what the target will be once they get there. There's a couple of other dynamics at play that we haven't really talked about, Babs, with the fact that there's the split seeding. I mean, Stooft has been challenged, has made mistakes in this seeding, but I think in terms of players who are expected, quote unquote, to make the top 6, Stooft is really the only player currently playing who's there. With more of those kind of top players for the open qualifiers playing on Saturday, I think there's definitely the chance that they push each other a little bit harder. You know, when you kind of look at the splits in round, even if you're playing HUD off, if you flick it on occasionally, and players kind of stress themselves out a little bit more with the players who are actually in server with them. In some ways, Stooft could be a little bit more relaxed right now, and that could be helpful.
It could be helpful, or it could play to his detriment. You know, maybe sometimes those players, especially Stooft, kind of thrives on the moment, and playing against those fast players and the best players makes him push that little bit extra and play to his absolute best. So he might be, you know, early too comfortable if that's possible. And this is something we were considering when we were adding the alternative day, is, you know, how do we make it fair between each lobby, that, you know, somebody who's playing, you know, against 5 of the best players in the world doesn't feel more pressure because their direct opponent was in a lobby with, you know, people who weren't vying for those same high positions. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the individual player and what is going to benefit them the most. And yeah, I think, and I'm going to make a bold claim, I think we might see a better seeding performance in rounds at least than what Stooft has given us today. I think somebody on Saturday is gonna really pop off and have a really good performance. If we look back to season 1, EPOS was in quite a similar position with all the world records on the maps, or at least, you know, for a certain period, and kind of fell to pieces on one of the maps. You know, got first, and then I think, you know, it was 12th or 14th on the third map. So yeah, going to be interesting to see how everybody fares then on Saturday.
Yep, going to be interesting to see what time Stooft has here. He did not make the finish. That will slow you down, I've heard, Tween.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of not what you want.
Not
finish.
Ideal.
Yeah. And
Well,
yeah, I mean, as Stooft made that mistake, I think we can now give a little bit of praise to Dark, who has done 2 decent rounds, like to kick things off. And yeah, I mean, we can see that, like, the guys that are behind Stooft, they definitely have their moments where they're shining, but they don't quite yet have the consistency that Stooft can pull off. So yeah, that's what's going to really help Stooft right now.
Yeah, and we talked plenty in depth about Mahoraga on the last map, about Intax's funny yellow map, how transitional it is. This feels to me, I think, out of the 3 maps that we've seen today, maybe like the most traditional mixed comp map. Do you think that's fair to say, Tween, or am I way off the mark there?
I think it's the most flowy one. It's also like the most consistent in terms of like how much time you can gain at the start and at the end. So yeah, it rewards having high pace and like knowing the absolute fastest like routes put through each turn. So yeah, I mean, I would agree that it's more traditional, and yeah, also the ending is kind of not all that difficult. So, oh, I just fear that so much. But Stuf managed to take it.
Dark,
Yet
that
another
was a
very
scary
solid round
finish from
by
Dark. Yeah, managed to make it in, but for a second there, it looked like he was maybe not going to make that finish. I believe did have to use the plastic triangle to bounce in with low speed. So, I mean, the fact that it's still a 112.144 with a minorly scuffed end from Dark, very, very impressive. Doing very well on this map and definitely could shoot him up the leaderboard a ways. And if that happens, then all of a sudden, you know, looking at that top 22, even if you can't break into that top 6 for Division 1, the top 22 in Division 2 is nothing to sniff at. I mean, Tween, you yourself did manage to come through Division 2. I don't think there were many people surprised when it ended up happening, but it does give you that automatic qualification to Division 1 for the next season.
That's for sure. I mean, I also very much enjoyed like my time playing Season 2 because, I mean, it feels like it was kind of like intended for me. Like I really needed that to just like play consistently every week, and it really helps you as a player to build yourself basically. And yeah, I can give a positive review to playing Division 2.
De-stressing by smurfing in Div 2 for a season, right?
I'm not sure Kroos had the same sort of experience as you did. I think he had to give everything to get that second qualification spot, but nonetheless, he's also a Division 1 this season, and looking at some of the players who might be joining him in Div 1, it's just going to be a hard match every week, isn't it? And I guess that's what we all want.
Yeah. Solid again from Stoof to a better round, at least this time. He's not really setting the world alight here on Heartleap. I think you were absolutely right, Babs. I don't know if I'm worried for Stoofts, but I might be a little bit worried.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that the big guys right now are launching the round server and just doing some analysis of what Stooft is doing and like saying like we need to be just a little bit faster.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying more as well, even just in terms of making it into that top 6. There's been 40% of rounds, I feel like, out of the rounds we've driven so far, where he's been a second or more off of the pace due to a crash. And we'll see on Saturday, obviously, but that just feels like quite a high percentage for someone looking to break into top 6 after rounds.
How about this? It feels kind of like a catch-22 where, as Tween mentioned earlier, every mistake you make, the one you make afterwards is more costly. And maybe Stuffs knows that. And with every mistake he makes, he feels that he needs to go faster the next round to make up for it. And that could be worrying. Obviously difficult to say, considering we don't have something to compare it against when we look at the sort of players vying for Div 1. This, however, does look like it's been a very, very good round for Stuffs. That's a 111.5.
Okay. We just got
reverse curse.
That's all right. We got done. Listen, sometimes you're going to get done. You try to call someone out on a broadcast. You're like, well, maybe he's not performing to the standard we'd expect, and he drives 111.5. He's within 0.4 of world record there. That's a great round. That will help an awful lot here on Heartleap by Roxy, which, by the way, does sound like it's a 70s power ballad of some kind. Like Heartleap by Roxy. You're telling me that that's not sung by someone with really tight leather pants and giant hair?
I mean, if you're volunteering.
I think we could. Thomas is the BITM caster who does skits, so I think it's him we need to look to.
Coming with Beacon World League Season 3, an animated song for each map.
That would be kind of sick. Listen, I will volunteer to sing some of those. I enjoy a bit of karaoke.
The Beacon virtual band.
Yeah.
We will make that a crowdfunding donation goal.
League of Legends has KDA, Beacon has Roxy, and Heartleap. I don't know. We'll figure it out. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Dark is looking really quick on this map. Is right behind Stuffs again. We'll see what the time is. I think Dark is kind of been around the low 112 mark an awful lot, so Stuffs just ahead of him. Does risk so much more on that outside dirt. I think that's just experiencing competitive. Stuffs willing to go hard on that corner. He knows his limits as we head towards the finish line. Then it will be a 111.7, and Dark breaks the 112 mark. Still having an absolutely great map.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the opposite to Stuffs, where we're a little bit worried about Stuffs, you know, the wobbles that he's had. Whereas in comparison, Dark, who's, you know, probably not on the same level as Stuffs, is most likely guaranteeing himself a place in Division 2. Because we've seen some pretty good rounds from him. I know he's coming back from a bit of a competitive break.
Sorry,
and,
just on that was within half a tenth of Dark's PB on the, at least public PB on this map. Like, he's driving very well in these rounds.
Yeah, maybe a map that just kind of suits him. But then again, he was also doing pretty good on Maharaga as well.
Yeah, excited to see. I mean, again, we are coming up to the end of this, our first seeding session, and it is hard to really tell where the players that are playing today are going to end up. These positions will be locked in for them. On Saturday, you can head to eCircuitMania.com. You will be able to head over to the Beacon World League tournament there, and the players' scores from that Saturday seeding will be updated in real time. If they ever drop below a player that competed in this today's seeding, then that is it. They will not be able to re-overtake them. And that is going to add genuine tension to proceedings on Saturday, especially for players like Stuffed, who are looking to break into that top 6. We'll see what number he finishes on the leaderboard. He's currently 33rd at the moment, which means that we're going to be able to count down, as he needs, what is that, 27 players as things stand to drop below him to make it into Div 1. And we'll just be able to count them off as we go.
I don't mean to be a pessimist, but that sounds like a lot of players.
It does sound like a lot of players. That just means there's lots of counting to be done, and we know.
Tween, reassure us here.
Yeah, I mean, one more factor. I mean, there's still 28 or so hours left of the time attack, so I mean, anything can happen there as well.
But he's already got first and everything.
I mean, there's still hundreds you can shave off, maybe.
There's still time, maybe, possibly, hopefully. We'll wait and see. As it might help. Hopefully, for stuff's sake, it doesn't help. But you don't want to be in a position where a couple of hundreds being shaved off on any of the maps is enough to shut you down or to get you into the tournament. But this is it, our final round on Heartleap. As usual, with Beacon World League, the map's color-coded this season. Heartleap is obviously a beautiful shade of red. Little dramatic as we round our final corners here. Stuffed has a lot of speed through these final turns. He's looking quick on this round. Dark, unfortunately, with a mistake earlier on, nowhere to be seen in this round, so will not be finishing out as strongly as he started on this map and as well as he has driven all map long. But there's a good group just behind Stuffed as we finish things off. Few players looking to finish on a high note. Nats, of course, is up there. Shoffy, who's had a decent time of it, especially on Maharaga. Seko just behind as well, and Linko, fan favorite Linko, battling Nats to the line. It's a sub 112 again for Stuffed. 112.6 for both Nats and Linko as everyone else crosses the line, and that will wrap things up for our seeding. Generally, I think no massive surprises from any of the players today, but I do think some of them put in very good performances. I said there, you know, Shoffy on Maharaga looked very quick, was in position just behind Stuffed or even ahead of Stuffed, winning a couple of rounds on terms of pace and generally setting some good times. And we mentioned Tween there as well. Dark looked very, very good on our final map on Heartleap.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like Stufts maybe might be feeling a little unease right now. I mean, it really all comes down to the pace that people are going to show on Saturday, and like it's kind of a risk like playing today's seeding, you know. And yeah, I mean, he's just going to have to wait and see. Like that's kind of like not a pleasant situation to be in, but we'll see how it goes on Saturday.
Yeah, I for one am definitely looking forward to that seating on Saturday, and of course week 1 of the competition actually kicking off once all the players are locked into their divisions. Babs, unfortunately, Circuit Mania have changed what they're doing live in front of me, and so Stuffed is back to the top of the leaderboard. I can't tell you how many people need to fall behind him in order for him to make Division 1 at the weekend. How are you feeling then about some of the other players from tonight? Is there anyone else you think might have put in a performance that could boost them up the leaderboard? I think Dark is one of the few players we saw in the server who at least has a chance maybe of getting that far.
Yeah, just to note on the ECM stuff, we decided to hide any of the rounds times from players even though you can watch this VOD. But we, didn't want to give any unneeded advantage to people playing on Saturday, knowing exactly the pace of each player. But I think I came into today expecting to get a bit of an insight onto, what we'll see on Saturday, who might be where, and I have learned nothing. And I think that's great because it's going to make Saturday just even more interesting. Just as you said, counting down the players and seeing if stuff actually makes it into that top 6. I still couldn't tell you if it's looking optimistic or if it's not. We're just going to have to see how everybody performs, and I'm kind of hyped for seeding, which is an interesting feeling.
Yeah, it's a strange place to be. I mean, look, we unfortunately don't have a huge amount more to talk about here because we have some players finish seeding. Everything else will happen on Saturday. We can tell you that you should be there. It would be a good idea. Babs, what time are we starting at on Saturday?
The seeding will be starting at 3 p.m. CEST.
That's what I thought. I just didn't want to make a mistake and confuse everyone. Tween, thank you so much for joining us here this evening to talk through the seeding. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions before we go, while we have this advantage to talk to you as well, while we have this moment with you. First of all, again, I did ask during it, how are you feeling about the pace and the rest of it there? Obviously, there's not a huge amount to go off, but would you say you're feeling more or less confident after watching these players play seeding?
I mean, it's not really about confidence, more about being humbled, I guess, by the maps.
Okay.
Because, maybe you set a bit too much optimistic outcomes that you predict for yourself. Like driving Mahoraga, you think I maybe I can be consistent on it. Well, you have to really work for it. So, I mean, I believe it was 5 finishers at the very first round, and I mean that map is just going to be a struggle for pretty much everyone. But it's going to be a happy struggle, I hope.
Yeah, that does kind of lead into my next question. And then before I ask you it, I'm going to remind you of the saying that if you aim for the stars and fail, you'll at least fall back to the moon. So, Tween, what's the goal for this season?
I want to make the finals. I'll be honest. A final is just another match where anything can happen very quickly. But getting to the finals, you have to be consistent, and if you are consistent, then you are going to make it. So, yeah, I mean that's my goal for the season.
Yeah, completely fair. That is just about going to wrap things up. Tween, once again, thank you for joining us. Myself and Babs will be back on Saturday with another special guest to follow the second round of seeding. I say second, the other round of seeding, the other heat. We'll call it a heat. The main seeding event will kick off. Lots of very good players to go from all over the world in that one. We look forward to having you join us here for that as well. As said, we will be here from 3 p.m. Central European Summertime this Saturday. And of course, Beacon proper kicks off the following Saturday. We will be into our first round of matches that week. We'll remind you of all that in the future. If you want to keep up with everything in the meantime, join the Discord or follow Beacon World League on Twitter. Head over to the YouTube channel, drop a follow here, subscribe to the channel, do whatever you want, but show your support. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday.